did you learn about this in seminary, about them suffering under the Romans? Do you know about this? I mean, to some extent, right?
Yes.
But I mean, the story I was always told is they were suffered under the Romans rather than deny Jesus. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Many of the people who suffered under the Romans, it was because you had to be a citizen of the Roman Empire. To fulfill your civic duty, you had to participate in a sacrifice to the emperor as a god. And there was one group of people in the entire empire who were exempt from that, and that was the Jews. And why were the Jews exempt? Because the Romans looked at the history, they said, okay, we've got this weird exotic people. They're peculiar. They have this obsession with only one God. It's a God they can't even see. It was strange to the Romans. And they said, we'll give a special dispensation to Jews not to worship the emperor as long as they bring a sacrifice in their temple in Jerusalem to their God on behalf of the emperor. And so the Jews had a special dispensation. And the early Christians, the early followers of Yeshua who were Jewish had no problem. It was when these Gentiles started to become Christians, started to follow Yeshua, and the Romans said, well, I mean, you're not Jewish. Did you participate in the sacrifice to the emperor? Where is your document? And there came a period in Roman history where you had to have a certificate. And if you wanted to buy, and some people say that's what Revelation is talking about, and certainly in the 2nd and 3rd century that happened, if you wanted to buy or sell, if you wanted to go into the public square and participate in business, you had to be able to show, I'm a good citizen. Where are your papers, right? You're undocumented. Where's your documentation?
Produce your papers.
Produce your papers, right? Papier, bitte, right? Where are your papers? And the paper would say, on such and such a date, I offered the sacrifice to the Emperor Nero. And if you couldn't show those papers, you were an outlaw. You were outside the law, right? You weren't a proper citizen of the Roman Empire. And as we get into the 3rd century, this becomes a huge problem. They start to actually enforce this. Originally, it was just like, maybe the guild of a certain city made you show your papers, right? But by the 3rd century, it's a universal thing. It's called the libellus. It's where we get the word libel. Right, the libellus originally was a certificate that showed that you had participated in the sacrifices, and it wasn't that because they professed belief in Jesus. It was because they refused to participate in an idolatrous sacrifice. That was the immediate reason, from the perspective of the Romans, that is, right? From their perspective, obviously, if I participate in the sacrifice, I'm denying Jesus, right? But from the perspective of the Romans, this is, it's like, it would be the equivalent if you say, well, I'm not going to pay my taxes. Why should I don't believe in the IRS. I don't believe in the Federal Reserve. Okay, well, the Federal Reserve believes in you, and so does the IRS. So you better play ball. And so these Christians were being persecuted.